Hello, everybody, and welcome. We're going to be starting very soon. I would encourage you to find a seat, and if you'd like to get some refreshment, the Coffee Cottage have kindly set up a vendor booth for us over there. So I would encourage you to do that now because we're going to be starting here in 1 minute. Jeff, you got a drink? This is last call. If you all could take your seats so we can actually start on time, so we can actually get you out of here on time. I apologize to the next speaker already because they'll have to raise the mic quite a bit more after me. So anyway, welcome. My name is Wendy Evans. I am a member of the Community Partners in Action Society, and I'm also a geriatric assessment nurse with the Wolf Creek PCN located in the Innisfail Medical Clinic. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 7 territory, the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Nation, including Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, and the Sioux First Nations and Stoney Nakoda First Nations. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. This Care Partner Fair was inspired by care partners like you. We heard from you, where can I get access to support? What are the resources available? Where can I get education? But also, where can I have some fun? The Community Partners in Action Society hopes that the fair today accomplishes some of those desires as you continue on your care partner journey. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my fellow Community Partners in Action members for their hard work and dedication. Thank you to the vendors here today, sharing their resources and expertise. And to the generous door prizes contributors who are listed on the back of your agenda. I'm not going to read them all out. Thank you to today's presenters, Phil Callaway, Wellsprings, and Caregivers Alberta. I'd also like to thank Jeff for helping us out, because this is going to be live streamed. We have people that will be joining us live streaming. And also, without him, we're not very techy, so thank you, Jeff. I will now turn over the MC duties to my fellow community partner in action and my secretary, Ellen.
And yes, I'm the person that has to put it up a lot higher from where it was. I imagine someone after me is going to put it up even higher. Welcome to the Care Partner Fair to those of you who are joining us online this afternoon. My name is Ellen Helgeson, and I am, as Wendy said, a member of the Community Partners in Action Society, and I'm also a recreation therapist with Alberta Health Services. I'm going to be your MC for the afternoon. And this fair is brought to you by the Community Partners in Action Society as well as Wellspring Calgary. We have a terrific group of people here to present. So let's get this afternoon started and up and running. So I would like to introduce you to Phil Callaway. Phil is a best-selling author of 30 books. He has hosted a radio show, Laugh Again, which airs on more than 400 radio stations in 10 countries. He has 3 kids, some grandchildren. He lives in a place called Three Hills, Alberta, Canada, and his high school sweetheart still finds him funny. Please join me in welcoming Phil, who will be sharing his take on caregivers' secrets to sanity and success.
Thank you so much, Ellen, and thank you, each one. I bring you very, very warm greetings. So good to be with you. And you online, let's hear it for them, okay? Online, glad you've tuned in. Don't go to sleep. Stay with me. We're with you. It is so cool to be with people that I admire this much. You're going to find out why I am a huge fan of you in a few minutes. And what you are up to. But I just got to say, first off, this is so fantastic to be together, is it not? We don't take that for granted so much anymore, and I am really glad. How are you doing? Are you doing okay? Huh? You're doing all right? Great. How many of you came feeling like this guy here? Let me see. Not like me. Like that guy. I hope not. I hope this is you today. Today. We are going to do some laughing and enjoying each other's company. You know, we had to cancel 100 events at least during the last couple of years, and I have missed this very much, just speaking and being with people. I'm a little bit that way. I just kind of thrive on that. I miss seeing people laugh. I missed the talks afterwards. A few years back, I was talking at a marriage event, and down near the front was a lovely young couple. She was laughing at all my jokes. A brilliant woman, I thought. But her husband would not laugh at a thing I had to say. He was just looking at me like this. He looked so sour. He looked like he could suck buttons off a sofa. And I tried over and over to help this guy laugh. He would not. Afterwards, his wife came to me. She shook my hand. She said, "Phil, I just want to thank you. I have not seen my husband laugh this hard in years." Wow. Okay, I don't know what was going on in their lives, but we were over at an event in Hong Kong. I was speaking to educators on speaking well, and we were having a blast. And I mentioned to them the importance, which I need to mention to you as well, of just getting exercise, right? You care for so many others, and we want you to last a very long time. So get some exercise. But I said, be careful. My mother started walking a mile a day when she was 68. And she's 82 now, and we don't know where she is. And they laughed. But afterwards, a dear lady, she came to me. She said this. She said, "Did you find your mother yet?" I was able to assure her that we'd found my mother yet. It's good to laugh. Two ladies came to me after I was speaking to a family event. I talked about how my parents were older when I was born. They were 40. Yeah, if you can imagine, I was born in a nursing home. They were 40 when I was born. And these two ladies were coming up. I was talking to someone else, and I noticed they were disagreeing, and they were not happy. And finally, they got there before me, and the one said, we're disagreeing on something. What do you think? I don't think mothers should have children after 35. And I said, I completely agree with you. 35 is a lot of children. Well, these two ladies started laughing, and I watched them go away together laughing. And hopefully today, laughter will unite us. I think it has the power to do that. It is good. We want to do a bit of celebrating of you today and what you do. And I hope this time will just be very enjoyable and very, very encouraging. How many are just over-encouraged? No one, okay. We're going to, how many are overpaid? I won't go down that road. Let's just not. But I just trust this will be a fantastic time together. I got into comedy to cheer my mother up. My mom, in my earliest memories, was sick. They didn't use the D word so much then. She was badly depressed, deeply depressed, and yet she was just sick. Sometimes she was hospitalized, sometimes she was at home. Most of the time, thankfully, she was at home. But I remember going into her room, and actually my parents' room, they shared a bed in there, and I saw my mom just laying there, and I thought, I got to do something. So I started making faces, and I started saying goofy things, and she stood up. She went out to the kitchen as she was chuckling and laughing, and she made me breakfast. It was my first paying gig. I was so glad. Humor can mean a great deal to those who are not experiencing a whole lot of joy in their lives. I was 5 when I told my mother, I want to grow up and be a comedian, and she looked at me, she said, well, you can't do both. And she was right. She was a brilliant woman. She was a writer as well, and she just, what a gal. But she said, you can't do both. And she was right. You cannot do what I do and entirely grow up. Each and every single day of my life, I get to go looking for things that make me laugh and thinking up things that will hopefully make others laugh. And then I put them on the radio, and we get all these responses. It's so much fun through books and whatever else. But through the years, laughter has kept me relatively sane. And I say that because I think in a few minutes you'll realize that, like you, we have faced some things that are seemingly insurmountable. And we've faced them in ways that have gotten us through somehow. I am still surrounded by people who battle deep depression. The closest people, some of them in my life, do this. And I found few tools are more effective than just a sense of humor. Having someone in your life that can bring that humor to you. I like to look for things that make me laugh, like warning labels. Have you seen some out there? One on a microwave manual, not to be used for drying pets. That's actually on a microwave manual. Please don't be doing this. This is from Nitol sleeping pills bottle. It says, may cause drowsiness. You think? I like that. Yeah. On a hairdryer, not to be used while sleeping or in the shower. Don't be doing that. My favorite is on a stroller. Please remove infant before folding for storage. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. Oh, yeah. Well, my wife helps me laugh. We just celebrated 40 years of marriage about 2 weeks ago, August 28th, whenever that was. And it's just unbelievable to think that we could get to that age this fast. I don't know if anyone here is aging. Anyone? Okay, not a single soul, all right? So we're all delusional together. It's beautiful. Yeah, but my wife helps me laugh. 40 years, 40 of the best years of her life. I tell you, I just have been amazing. But you don't stay married 40 years without a good sense of humor. Anyone say a yahoo to that? It's true, You don't do what you've been doing as long as you have without a good sense of humor. We all need that. And as you grow older, you gotta laugh, if ever it happens to you. I know nobody is aging, but if it ever happens, I turned 50. I looked in the mirror. I looked to my wife, I said, honey, I don't look 50. She said, no, but you used to. And so you gotta laugh, right? Some people would respond to that. No, laugh. Here I am approaching 60, and I will not tell you from which side I'm approaching 60. But I said to her just recently, I said, honey, I don't know what to wear at my age. Do I wear boxers or briefs? And she said, depends. And I didn't get the joke. So hopefully you have somebody in your life that helps you laugh, and many of you I know help others laugh. Way to go. My kids helped me laugh. We had 3 of them in 3 years. My wife did the principal amount of the work there. I'm very grateful to her for that. But the anesthetic from the first birth was still working for the third. Someone said to me, what's it like to have 3 kids in 3 years? I said, we are far more satisfied than the guy who has $3 million. Well, how so? Well, the guy with $3 million wants more. They didn't get that in Calgary, Ellen. You guys you're pretty sharp. Yeah. So these kids help me laugh, and you need a good sense of humor if you're going to have kids. If you have little kids around, you need a good sense of humor and no sense of smell. That's the way it is. When our kids were young, we sent them off to school, and they sent them back, the teachers did, because they were only 3. And so we had to wait a little while, and finally they took our kids, and we'd talk to them at night. Anyone here have children, or you've seen some? Yeah, and you know what they say? We asked them, so what did you learn today? Have you done that? What did they say? Nothing. And then they bring home their report cards. You find out they are not lying. It's amazing. Oh, kids. It's startling what they're learning and not learning in school. I just, on some tests, a guy wrote down, the question was, what is a nitrate? A guy wrote down, much cheaper than a day rate. Nice. Name 6 animals found in the Arctic, 4 polar bears, 2 seals. That adds up to 6. Very well done. And where was the Declaration of Independence signed? At the bottom. Beautiful answer. I would have passed that guy with an A+. Benjamin Franklin invented electricity by rubbing cats backwards, a little kid said, and he declared that a horse divided against itself cannot stand. Franklin died in 1790. This little kid was writing an essay. He died in 1790 and is still dead. Isn't that cool? Kids, you never know what they're learning. A man should have only one wife. This is called monotony, a little guy said. Victoria was the longest queen. She sat on a thorn for 63 years. Didn't know that. William Shakespeare was famous for writing and performing tragedies, comedies, and hysterectomies. Wow. A man should have only one wife. This is called monotony, according to a child. And my favorite from a little kid, he wrote this down. Christopher Columbus circumcised the earth with a 100-foot clipper. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, yeah. Well, grandkids help me laugh. Does anyone here have grandkids? Huh? And do you have pictures of them? I'll show you in just a moment. Yeah, in fact, here they are. I just want to show you what they look like. That's my wife and me. There we are. These are the grandkids. No, that's not them. Here, that's not them either. Here we go. This was just a couple weeks ago, celebrating our 40th with all the grandkids. What a blast. We have 14 of them. Some of them thanks to adoption, this miracle that has happened. It's been incredible. But we are just surrounded by these kids, and they make us laugh. Someone said, 14, are you Mormon or Catholic? I said, I'm exhausted, that's what I am. And very, very happy, very, very happy. It's been so much fun. Andre, where is he? Andre's in there somewhere in the herd there. But he said to me, Grandpa, you're bald. Like I didn't know this, You're bald, Grandpa. He said, you look extinguished. Thank you. Thank you very much, yeah. Grandkids. Well, it is good to laugh. Isn't it good to laugh? Do we need to? How many have just been doing way too much laughing the last few years? Probably not. We need to laugh. Little kids do, and we need to join them. I got to tell you, my friends, you bring so much joy to so many people, and you don't know how much that means, I don't think. Well done. Humor is not getting any easier. I am discovering this. Not only can life be tough, which you know, but to complicate things, we live in an increasingly cranky world where you can barely utter a complete sentence without offending somebody. You meet somebody, hi, I'm Phil, and they shake your hand and say, I'm offended. That's what we're in the business of these days, it seems, being offended. It is hard being a comedian. Say, you feel bad for me. Yes, thank you. People come up to me, they tell me, tell us a joke, they say. And that is not fair. I mean, would you go up to a politician and say, tell me a lie? I don't think so. How many found that a little bit, yeah, offensive? There you go. Yeah. I tell jokes on the radio, and it's a lot of fun, but I was telling about a single gal that she specified that at her funeral, there be no male pallbearers. They wouldn't take me out when I was alive. I don't want them taking me out when I'm dead. And somebody just rip a strip off me for that, a 3-page letter about that. And, my single friends find that joke hilarious. We need to lighten up, don't you think? I told about a little girl named Chrissy sitting on Grandpa's knee. Grandpa making noise like a frog. Grandpa said, why? She said, because Daddy said that when you croak, we can all go to Disneyland. Terrible. Oh, man. We gotta laugh. We need to lighten up. You know, some people around you want you to be as miserable as they are. I'm looking at your happy faces today and thinking, no, make sure you keep it that way. Don't climb on that bus. Don't climb on that bus. You know, I began writing books some years ago. It was almost 30 years ago. And nobody was more surprised than me and my wife that they were a hit. They called me from the States to tell me this right away. You better get ready to be on radio and TV, and you better get ready to speak, which absolutely freaked me out of my mind. Now at my age, my leading fear is having a heart attack while playing the game charades. You know, you're clutching your chest and they're guessing. But at that time, it was speaking. How many fear that now? I'm sorry to even mention that. But, you know, I discovered that people want to laugh. But for us, suddenly life took a turn. An ironic twist, really. As one by one, my wife's siblings began to come down with Huntington's disease, which is in her family. It was not a whole lot of fun, let me tell you. Some of you have heard of it. It's a neurological disorder which causes mental and physical deterioration. And we were pretty sure Ramona had it because of some things happening in her life. And she was tested, and we discovered on February 14th, Valentine's Day, at a hospital in Calgary. As a doctor, down this series of corridors we went and opened up an envelope. Either she had it or didn't have it. And the doctor, she said to us, you don't have the Huntington's gene. And it was a transformational time in our lives, with all these years of worrying that she had it. But right away, seizures began. Grand mal seizures. My wife was not doing well, let me tell you. Here I was, my books were a hit. I was the funny guy. I was cheering people up. And in my own home, it was a struggle every moment. She was having seizures every half an hour, grand mal seizures, and down to 90 pounds. And here I am, these were published in the U.S., so I'm on all these radio talk shows, and then they're asking me, so how do you learn to laugh when life is hard? And there I am, and I wasn't able at that time to tell them what I was going through. They just thought, you're the funny guy. Life must be really good. But it certainly wasn't. And I started to feel alone. Friends were silent. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to do. Answers were scarce, and I got to be honest with you and tell you that bitterness began to eat at me like a cancer. I began to wonder, how can you transform trauma? How can you move from one day to the next? How will I ever laugh again? What does the future look like? Someone said to me, choose joy. And I thought, I get it. I get what you're saying. I've said those same words. It makes a really nice bumper sticker. But in time, I learned this first secret, that I am surrounded by cacti, but I determine what I sit on. Am I right? I don't think, no, I In Sarasota, Florida, a woman came out of the grocery store, an elderly gal, and she went to her car and found 4 young guys in her car in the parking lot about to steal her car. And she lost it. She grabbed from her purse a handgun, waggled it in this open window and yelled, get out of my car, I've got a gun, I know how to use it. Imagine. Well, these 4 young guys, they listened. They got out of that car as fast as they could. They took off like a herd of cats across the parking lot, and they were gone. Well, she sounds very brave, but she got into that front seat, and she couldn't even, she was shaking so badly, couldn't get the keys into the ignition. And she looked over on the front seat, there was a basketball there, and there was a 6-pack of beer. And she couldn't remember putting them there. And suddenly she realized, I'm in the wrong car. She found her own car. She drove herself to the police station and turned herself in. And the officer was writing this information down, but he couldn't hardly write. He was laughing too hard. He just pointed at the corner of the room where 4 young guys were standing, reporting a crazy old lady. She's got a gun. She knows how to use it. Find her, find her. And she discovered that if you're going to have a senior moment, hey, go ahead and make it really memorable. And so it was. Oh, yeah. You know, I heard that story. I don't even know if it's true. It might be one of these urban legends. But I thought, that's me lately. I have gotten a little bit cranky. I'm looking around me, and all I can see are the things that are wrong. I heard about a gal who this was a story in the UK, this documented, it happened. She took her hamster to the vet. That hamster had been stuck to the side of its cage for 3 days. It wouldn't move, it wouldn't eat, it wouldn't drink, and she was worried about it. It was alive, thankfully, still, but she took it to the vet, and the vet reached in, pulled the hamster out, put it on the table, and it began to run around a little bit, kind of wobbling, and she reached into its mouth and pulled out a fridge magnet. A fridge magnet. Turned out this hamster had been out on the floor one day of the kitchen and had scarfed up a fridge magnet, you know, and spent the next 3 days stuck to the side of its cage due to its magnetic personality. And once again, I'm happy to tell you that the hamster is fine if you're worried. I get thinking about these stories and I think of my own life, because that so often can be our lives. We are swallowing the wrong stuff. So I want us to go looking for some good things. The world is full of cacti, but we don't need to sit on one. I have decided to refuse to spend much of my time on things I can do nothing about. The news anchor bids you a good evening, then spends 3 hours telling you why it isn't. And I say, let's shut it off. Let's look elsewhere. Even the Weather Channel mentions a 20% chance of rain. How about 80% chance of fantastic? I'd like to hear that. And if it rains, let's make the best of it. As caregivers, we feed on things that build us up. We hang out with people who build us up whenever we can. Things that build others up. Things that are pure and fantastic and of good report. Things that are excellent and praiseworthy. Things that build empathy, which you all have, and compassion. Continue that, would you? Your focus will transform your life, your home, those you work with, and yes, even your face. Even your face. If you came here looking like this guy, yeah, or like this guy, well, we hope you'll leave here today feeling like that guy. Does that sound good? When I was 15, a gorgeous gal by the name of Ramona moved in next door to me, and I made it my life motto to love my neighbor as myself, and chased her until she caught me. But we were dating, and I asked her one day, she lived there with her mom, and I just said, you know, where's your dad, or what happened? And she kind of, like she was reading it on the front page of a newspaper, told me about her father's death in a drowning accident right in front of the family in a flood in Saskatchewan. And she told this and finished it, and I was in shock, and she says, I said, I'm so sorry, how are you doing? She said, I'm fine. But in time, I discovered she wasn't. As we were married and some of these things started to happen, I'm convinced that was part of the whole reason for the seizures. We don't know, but the trauma of it all. We wonder, how can we laugh again? And how can we help other people who aren't laughing to laugh again? I believe that radical gratitude is the great secret in it all. Gratitude is the great secret to the contagious, joy-filled life of an effective caregiver. That's you. It's not easy sometimes. Someone said to me, if the world didn't suck, we'd all fall off. And I think they were onto something, you know? Because this is a fearful, fallen planet, isn't it? I mean, we are in trouble, and it's not an easy place. It's a pain-filled place. But we are in this together. We're not alone, thanks to people like you. I remember on Thanksgiving Day, I finally got everybody into bed. I'd been reading to the kids a story. They were small at the time when Ramona's seizures began. I found her actually after a phone call when the line went dead. I came running home, and found her unconscious on the floor lying in a pool of blood with the first seizure she'd ever had. And 3 kids are there, right? What do you do with that? Well, you just love them. You love on them and you talk to them. I remember that night reading them a kid's storybook, and Ramona came into the room, reached out her hand, and had another seizure, boom, right there. And so these kids are asking me, well, you know, what's going to happen? Is Mama going to die? I don't know. But we're doing all we can to get help for Mama. And whatever happens, I'm going to be here with you, I promise. I remember as these seizures went on, we had a Thanksgiving day when I got everybody into bed and everybody was asleep, and finally I fell off to sleep myself, and suddenly there was a little kid standing there. Thankfully it was one of our children. He tapped me on the shoulder, woke me up to inform me that he could not sleep, and I had to be up in about 3 hours anyway. I thought, so I got up and took him across the hallway, tucked him in. I said, Jeff, I'll tell you what'll help you sleep. I want you to think of some things you're glad about, things you're thankful for. And this little kid looks up at me. He says, Dad, you start. And I'm thinking, not a chance. I don't want to. And I didn't tell him that, but no, I don't know if she'll be alive when I get back across the hall. I don't know about tomorrow. I'm a little worried about my kids. And then I thought, of some things my mother had drummed into me when I was a little kid. And the biggest of them was give thanks in everything. In all things, give thanks. How is that possible? Well, I'll tell you, it's an act. We may not be able to choose joy, but we can choose to be thankful. I have been with some of the world's most remarkable people who have struggled immensely and impacted a generation because of their lives. Don't get me wrong. As I sat there, I stood there with Jeff, and I knelt down beside him, and I just started on my list of thankful things. I don't know what you'd say this morning or tonight, this afternoon, wherever we are in the world. I don't know what you would say, what you're thankful for. Can someone think of something?
It's sunny out today.
Beautiful, okay. 20% chance, 80%. You were going to say something.
My dog.
Your dog. Yeah. Ours, Maltese Shih Tzu. About $300, $100 per brain cell for this dog. Yeah, they're a lot. Think of these things. Talk about these things that you're thankful for. I said to Jeff, I'm thankful for attention deficit disorder, which I personally developed back in 2nd grade. It helps me write short stories. I am thankful for the dark. It's the only time I can see the stars. I'm thankful for someone to thank. I'm thankful for 3 wonderful kids who surround us with laughter and energy and mischief and love. And I'm glad all of them have finally gone to sleep. And now I think I will too. Gratitude. I don't want you to get me wrong. I want this to be real. I like to whine sometimes. Anybody else here? Huh? You're a good complainer. You're most excellent at finding things. Oh, yeah. I have found stuff. I have complained about hard butter. Ask Ramona. I have. I just, the stuff it does to the bread. Come on. This is not good. My phone is too fat for my skinny jeans. Say, oh, you feel sad. Yeah. My hand is too chubby to shove into the Pringles chip container, so I have to tilt the container. Yeah. My seedless watermelon has a seed in it. Come on. One lady said, my husband does everything I ask him to do, but why do I have to ask him? There's an actual complaint. I said recently to Ramona, my electric toothbrush died, and now I have to move my arm. Life is hard, she said. In Sacramento, I got to tell you this before I tell you that story. This is my most favorite complaint on Twitter, okay? I ordered a pizza and came with no toppings on it or anything. It's just bread. Domino's says basically, we're sorry, tell us where you are so we can fix that. And he puts this, never mind, I opened the pizza upside down. Wow. In Sacramento, California, a weekend conference was oversold by 1,500 seats. It was a bit of a problem for organizers, right? And they began to conscript all kinds of volunteers to phone all these people coming. And they phoned thousands and thousands of people and said, we're sorry, we're putting some smaller chairs in the main seating area, and we're going to do the best we can, but we're sorry about this. 1 hour into that conference, the complaints began to arrive. Their buns were being wedged too tightly. Necks were craned from being too close to the platform, and some were not very happy about this. So they asked the next speaker if she would just address the thing, and apologize again on behalf of the organizers. And she said, sure. I have been, I don't use this word very often, but blessed, I don't know how else to put it, to spend time with this gal. Some of you will recognize her when I put up her picture. Her name is Johnny Erickson Tada, and here we are. Oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing. Okay, let me go back. There she is. There's Johnny. I did something wrong. Yeah. Here's Johnny, paralyzed at the age of 16 in a diving accident. Her story has inspired countless millions of people. And really, she's one of the reasons that we have so many ramps leading into buildings. She has taken that on as a personal challenge. She is remarkable. A real gal who struggles and yet has impacted so very many. Picture this. She's wheeled onto the platform, and this is what she says. I understand some of you aren't comfortable sitting in the seats you're sitting in tonight. Well, neither am I. And I've been in mine for more than 40 years. And then smiling her beautiful smile, she said, I have thousands of friends who would give anything to sit where you are sitting, if just for tonight. Many of those who attended said that was a transforming moment in their entire life when they just got it. We have so much to be thankful for, don't we? Every day as a caregiver, will you set your default on Thanksgiving? Go looking. It's a choice that will change you. The world is full of cacti, but we don't need to sit on one. Second point, for the many of you taking notes. 2, how many are? You just relax if you want to, okay? Even ants have time to attend a picnic. Is that right? Yeah. How many of you here are just really rested? You're almost over-rested. I don't think so. How many have heard of stress? I sat down to take a 22-page stress test recently. I counted. The first question was, if you could change your life in one major way, what would it be? And I wrote down, I would quit taking this test. And I did. I came up with the Caregivers stress test. Are you ready to take it? Just loosen your shoulders up a little bit. Do some of this, okay? Here we are. Do you use Pepto-Bismol as gravy? Was the last time you stopped to smell the roses when you fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into a flower shop? Was that you? Has your laptop seen more of your lap than your children recently? Ooh. Do you use digital technology to add your image to family pictures? I hope not. But chances are you are a little bit stressed doing what you do. I came home one night with a briefcase. My kids were small. My son was 6. I set it on the table after supper. I pulled charts and graphs and reports out of it, began to work. And this 6-year-old kid is watching me. He says, Dad, what are you doing? I said, I'm working, son. He said, why? I said, because there aren't enough hours in the day to get done all I need to get done. And this little guy looks at me. He says, Dad, they should put you in a slower group. That slower group would be nice, don't you think? The one we're in is traveling very quickly. The experts tell us that stress now contributes to 90% of known diseases, that North Americans now ingest 60,000 pounds of aspirin, tranquilizers, and sleeping pills per day. That's not per person, but that's a lot, don't you think? I burned out big time while taking care of my wife and my aging parents, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But when I began to say no and slow down, no is a complete sentence, you know. Put a period after it. I used to explain everything. No, I can't because. And just stop and say, no, I can't. Thanks, but I can't. That's a good way to answer. When I began to slow down, I found I was better equipped to take good care of those who needed me. And a huge part of stress comes from chasing stuff, I believe. You know, advertisers are spending billions convincing us we are miserable. You poor things. The average Canadian adult is now paying off their MasterCard with their Visa so they can impress people they don't like with stuff they don't need and get air miles they're too busy to use. And that's some of us. No society has ever had more junk. We have pants that talk now. I kid you not. They're made in Great Britain. When you touch them, they simply say, zip me. And some of us need that, I do grant it. But we have bacon-flavored floss, which I'd like to try some. That kind of sounds cool. Phones, they work underwater now. We can talk underwater. Great. I saw a bank slogan down in the U.S. It said, "We will lend you enough money to get you completely out of debt." Ah, wow. Getting into debt, my friends, is not a great idea. We've done that over a mortgage, but that was it. Getting into debt is like wetting the bed. It feels good for a very short period of time. So just relax. Just go easy and get out of debt if you're in it. Money is a great thing. It is a great gift. It is a great servant, but it is a lousy master. Don't serve it. I wrote a book called Making Life Rich Without Any Money, and it's been one of my most popular books. But in it, I talked about the things that money can do, and they are many, and they are fantastic. You can help others, but you have to realize money's limitations. It can buy you a house, but it cannot buy you a home, right? It can buy you, what? A bed, but not a peaceful sleep. And we'd all like that recently. It can buy you health, or pills, but not health. My wife and I have decided that we're not going to leave a whole bunch of money behind so our kids can fight over it. We're spending it with them now, and we're doing that on worthy organizations that can use our help. I've said the last check we write is going to be to the undertaker, and it's going to bounce. Yeah. So remember that even if you win the rat race, you are still a rat. Don't climb on that bus. Take a child by the hand and go out for a walk. Make sure it's your child. This is very important. Do that. Go out for a humor walk. Don't come home till you find something good to laugh about. Play great music. I have given some of the world's best concerts in my car with the stereo turned up. You wouldn't believe how good they were. Go ahead and listen to great music. Don't hurry through dinner, because if you do, it might hurry through you. Relax a little bit. Slow down. Remember that all great leaders are great readers, so go ahead and read a book. If it's one of mine, you get bonus points. There is nothing noble about a nervous breakdown. Nothing selfish about taking care of your own needs. So make your mental health a priority. You cannot help others if you don't help yourself first. Am I right? So learn to enjoy things without owning them. Forget about the Joneses. I have been with the Joneses. They're not all that happy. They're not as happy as you think, at least. Sometimes the most pressing thing you can possibly do is take a complete rest and remember that even ants have time to attend a picnic. Third one, for the two of you writing these things down. Ready? Don't jump from the train when you're in a tunnel. What do you think? Is it true? I have a friend by the name of Vance. He moved in next door to me and became my friend, and I love this guy from the start because Vance is a good Mennonite. I mean, is there another kind? They are such great people. He came over to me, he told me the first Mennonite joke I had ever heard. He said, "Did you know there is conclusive proof that Adam was a Mennonite?" The first man was a Mennonite? I didn't know this. He said, "Yes. Who else would stand beside a naked woman and be tempted by an apple?" He said. And I loved this guy, of course, until the day he came over and insulted my lawnmower. I had a perfectly good electric lawnmower. He said, "Those are for wimps. You should have a gas-powered lawnmower like mine, a real man's lawnmower." Oh, I didn't like this at all, and especially didn't like it when my lawnmower quit so loud you could hear it quit in Innisfil, Alberta. And I had to go over and borrow my neighbor's lawnmower. And he said, sure. He took me over to his shed and just said, "Feel those handlebars. This is a man's lawnmower. Just go ahead and feel it." Oh, man, it was so good. I pulled that thing to life, and I cut our grass in big, wide, manly swaths all the way to the back of the backyard. Returned the lawnmower, of course. A week and a half later, I had to borrow it again. Went over, tapped on Vance's door. He was not home. I thought, we are such good friends now, I will just borrow it. And so I did. I took it home. I cut our grass in wide, manly swaths all the way to the back of the backyard until I encountered the stump, about this big around, about 2 inches in the air. I thought last week I went around it. This time I'll just go over it. It needs trimmed anyway. It's a man's lawnmower. Bang! It stopped dead, never to start again. Well, I am not a mechanically minded person like some of you, but I like looking at stuff that's busted. And so I turned it over. The oil was dripping out of it. Crankshaft bent like this. Couldn't budge the pull start cord thingy. So what would you do? Wow. My father taught me exactly what to do when I was just a little boy. He said, "Son, if ever you borrow something, return it." And so I did. I put it back where it belonged, and I left on a 5-day business trip to Washington, D.C. I did. I know it's terrible. I got home. Vance was waiting for me. It was growing dark. He said to me, "Do you have a flashlight?" I did. I went into the house and I got a flashlight. I thought he's going to club me over to the head with a flashlight. I don't want to die that way. But he motioned me over to the stump. And there it was. He shone a flashlight on it. He had poured an entire bottle of ketchup, red like blood, all over the stump. There was a white spray-painted outline of a lawnmower in the grass beside it, and a yellow ribbon police line, "Do not cross," around the trees. I kid you not. He said, "We have a suspect." Took me out to the garden. I kid you not about any of this stuff. We have pictures to prove it. And, well, I'll show you one of them. Yeah. He had made this up, a tombstone, out of computer paper and a brick. "Here lies Mr. Mower, a life so quickly taken by a hand so quick to take. He will never mow what life had in the grass ahead of him." You know, here lies Mr. Mower. It's not hard to understand why Vance and I are still friends today. He did not jump from the train in the middle of a tunnel. He forgave me. You know that 2 weeks later, Vance's wife, Sherry, went down to our hardware store in our little town, entered their name in a white draw box to win a beautiful red self-propelled lawnmower, and guess what happened? They won. They did. And all because of me, right? They have a beautiful self-propelled lawnmower. I have not tried borrowing this lawnmower, but I do keep reminding them just how very fortunate they are to have me for a friend. Don't jump is a great way to live. Those who make the greatest difference on this planet are those who meet life's challenges head on and hang in there when the whole world says run. They stay committed to a task, committed to a friendship, to a marriage, to a job. Did you know, according to a new study I just read, that you can live 4 years longer on average by staying married? I didn't know this. And so I read this long study that they had done. It's kind of interesting. A guy came up to me after an event. He said to me after I had told that, he said, that thing about the staying 4 years longer, he said, that just seems longer. He said, just 4 more years of misery. And I said, well, that's up to you. He said, how long have you been married? It was 35 years at that time. I said, 35 years. He said, in a row? I said, yeah, it's possible. It is. And because we laugh together. We do. That's a big deal. My wife says, you want breakfast in bed, sleep in the kitchen. Go ahead and laugh. A stifled laugh will back up on you and spread to your hips. So go ahead and let it go. Don't jump from the train when you're in a tunnel. I'm going to just see if there we go. Okay. I have heroes in my life, and I want to tell you about a few of them. In the midst of Ramona's seizures, a guy came to me and he said, Callaway, he said, I've been seeing what's going on. He said, put her in a home and get on with your life. Well, at that point, I was just beginning to see signs of hope. And along this guy came. It was the last thing I needed to hear, because that's the kind of culture we so often live in. It's just ditch things when there are problems. Thank God I didn't listen. And I did all I could to find help. And thanks to a doctor who prescribed a simple anti-seizure medication, Ramona is with me today. She is doing fantastically well. And she wakes up each day beside the most grateful guy alive. And I'm thankful, for some strange things. And one of them is that the valleys are places where we grow. I love the mountains, but there's not much growing way up top of some of them, is there? But it's down these valleys where we grow, where our lives can be transformed. Not all has been easy. Ramona has lost 5 immediate family members, thanks to Huntington's and cancer. It's been a wild ride, but one of the redeeming things that tough times do is they immensely qualify us to deal with others like you are. My deeply depressed mama was horribly abused as a child, which contributed to the way she cared for others. And when I was a little guy, I remember women in our home every Tuesday night. There'd just be one of them, or 5 of them, or 2 of them. And they'd show up for supper sometimes. Younger women. I didn't know what they were doing. I went out and played football. But I'd come in and they were crying sometimes, or they were laughing. And what I found out years later when my mother passed away and I began hearing from these women, one after another saying, you have no idea what your caregiving mother did for us. She took the very thing that traumatized her, and it was transformed as she began to invest her life and her wisdom and her experience in others. 3 best-selling authors after Mom's funeral wrote to tell me I never would have written a single paragraph. Basically, essentially, that's what each of them said, without your mother encouraging me. What a gift. My other hero is Miriam and Jim. These heroes. Miriam is my wife's eldest sister. Suffering from Huntington's disease, she was seated across from a doctor, and the doctor said, Miriam, you're only showing about 50% of the symptoms associated with Huntington's. He said, we think that your attitude has helped you. We think that your belief in a higher power has helped you. And she said, yeah. She said, you know what? My husband loves me, and I believe I'm loved by God and promised the eternal joys of heaven. And she said, I also have a beautiful fridge magnet. It says, Lord, if you can't make me thin, make my friends look fat. This from a gal who is staring at death in the face and not long to live. Her husband wrote us this shortly before she died. Miriam is doing great. Her speech is now to the point that we have difficulty understanding most of what she says. Sometimes I have to ask her to repeat herself 4 or 5 times, and she starts to laugh at me. How great is that? The 2 phrases she says the best and probably the most often are, I love you and I'm happy. It makes my day every time. Thanks for your prayers. Isn't life amazing? I have been hanging out with inspiring people like you for years. Jim, who stayed. He did not jump from the train in the middle of that tunnel. He stayed and he nursed her. Incredible. And the women in that room, in her room that came in, and some guys as well, to take care of her, are just awesome. Some of my heroes. Remember, don't jump from the train when you're in a tunnel. Number 4 is when opportunity knocks, don't complain about the noise. Very quickly, one of the greatest gifts you can give to yourself and your family and those you work with is a fantastic attitude. Am I right? Nod some heads if you agree with me. A fantastic attitude. I see it in your faces as I'm looking at you, this attitude. Whatever stage you're in, life flies by. Suddenly, our kids are all grown up. It's amazing. And, here's a picture of some of them. Yeah, our kids. Rachel over on the right, Jeff in the stripes. He came home one day. He said to my wife, he was 16 or so, he said, Mom, I want to get married, but I want to bring home 3 girls, and you have to guess which one it is. And what? Brought home 3 girls, and they sat on the sofa and began to converse with my wife. Finally, Mom, enough. Guess which one it is. She pointed right at the one in the middle. She said, her. How did you know? She said, because I don't like her. It's not true. We love this gal very much. But Dallas, Steve, they met at the age of 30, and we've always wanted a strong woman for our son. Dallas is a world record-holding power lifter from Red Deer. She squats like hundreds of thousands of pounds. I don't know what it is. It's a lot. I said, Dallas, I do diddly squats. Does that count? She said, no. She said, it doesn't count. But recently she carried our son over the threshold. So we're real cool with that. But at this time of life, some of my friends aren't doing so well. So much has changed. And I'm thinking, let's embrace it. Let's do it. Let's have a great attitude. The truth is we love going to their house now and doing stuff they used to do at our houses. Turn on taps everywhere. Just leave them dripping. Flip lights on. They'll come after you. They'll shut them off. They're paying now. Best of all, we like to sit on their sofa late at night, turn up the music, and neck. Does anyone remember what that was? Necking? Okay, it's just kissing and stuff. Oh, yeah. Well, I just talked with a gal by the name of Eleanor Young. I want to show you Eleanor's picture as well. Here she is. She was, at 5 years of age, she got polio, spent 7 months in a hospital. And she told me how she finally was able to stand on crutches. And she was so thrilled. She watched the other kids. She said, I watched them playing football and baseball, and I loved every minute of it, standing there on my crutches. And I said, Ellen, but You were on crutches. You weren't playing. Oh, she said, that didn't matter. Remember, she said, a few weeks earlier, I couldn't stand on crutches. That's the kind of attitude I just am amazed to find. I was interviewing her for Laugh Again Radio. What an inspiration. That attitude has taken her around the world, encouraging others and building others up. Chuck Swindoll said this, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, education, money, circumstances, failure, successes. It's more important than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every single day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We can't change the past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. And listen to these words. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you, he says. We are in charge of our attitudes. Isn't that good? Life is 10% what happens to me, 90% of how I react to it. We can't choose our age or our health or our hairline, but we can choose our attitude and watch it go viral to those that we love and serve. When opportunity knocks, don't complain about the noise. And finally, live so the preacher won't have to lie at your funeral. Have you been to one of those funerals? Have you? Where you're thinking, are they talking about the guy in the casket or what? I don't remember him that way. I am known as a comedian. I've developed this sense of humor through the years, and I think it was initially a defense mechanism to keep from getting bullied because I was a skinny kid. I was beaten up a lot. Trust me, with a mouth like mine, that's what happens. I was swimming in a lake one summer and a dog came out to fetch me 3 times. That's how skinny I was. I was a thin kid. And I also got my sense of humor from my dad. Each of my children at some point, this is the first time I've told this since COVID, so we'll see how it goes, each of my children at some point in their lives has experienced me pulling back their collars and sneezing down their necks. And I got the idea from my dad, okay? It was a very sanitary thing, don't worry, of course. But my dad had done this just once to each of us kids. And this sense of humor that he had is coming in handy the older he gets. Mom and Dad lie in separate beds in a hospital now, not knowing where they are. And each time I visit, I remind them, and the lights come on, then quickly fade. I once asked my dad the secret to their lengthy marriage, and his eyes twinkled. He said, senility. He said, I wake up each day and I can't remember who she is. And it was funny back then, but now these 2 old lovers are saying a slow goodbye, surrounded by nurses who love them, people like you, whose sweetness surprises me at times. The phone rang, it was my dad. He said, son, the nurses, they stole my wallet, they got my pants. He said, bring me some money. I said, I'll be right over, Dad. I went over to see him, and by the time I got there, he'd forgotten why. He looked at me and said, what are you doing here? Don't you work? That's my dad. Some of the doctors call it dementia, others Alzheimer's, and none of us thought it would come to this. My mother, once my biggest fan, struggles to finish a 3-word sentence. She was an author, brilliant woman. Struggles to finish a 3-word sentence. But as I come in tonight, she looks at me, oh, son. She says, where's Rachel? She knows Rachel comes often. I said, she's coming right behind me, Mom. She's here. She takes my daughter's hand when she gets there. She says, I love you. Never forget it. Say it after me. Grandma loves me. Grandma loves me. And my dad is over in a chair. He says, I got to get the car keys. Where are they? I can't find them. I got to get out there. I got to buy some groceries. And, that's my dad. He can't cook. He never could. He would burn milk or water, whatever it was. But here we are. It's quite a time, isn't it? Some of you are there. Some of you are helping those who aren't. I remember my mother saying to Rachel, can you turn on the little beatbox thing there? Get some music going on. And then Dad, he's getting ready for a trip, he says. Going back to Ontario where he spent his boyhood. Going to climb those tall oak trees and swim in the Elora Gorge. And I wonder if isn't the most profound thing he said in a while, because we're all getting ready for a trip, going home. We said goodbye, and once again, this slow, this role reversal as I said goodnight to the most magnificent couple I could have ever been blessed with. Out in the parking lot, Rachel, she says to me, "Daddy, can I drive?" And I thought, yeah, you can. Here are the keys. And she turned and she said, "Give me a hug." And it was the greatest thing because I could feel a sneeze coming on. Not long after I wrote that story out for my book, Family Squeeze, which deals with Alzheimer's and dementia and nursing those we love, my parents passed away. Someone said, "Did they leave a lot behind?" I said, "No, we have looked everywhere with shovels, Or did they? They left behind them this amazing legacy of a couple that loved each other, despite all that went on and all their failures and shortcomings. They didn't chase the stuff of earth. They chased things you can't cram into your coffin. They told me they loved me. My dad did at 79 years of age, finally said those words, "I love you." I never doubted it, but it meant a lot. I turned 35 some years ago, tucked my son into bed. He looked at me and said, "Dad, how old are you again?" I said, "I'm 35, son." He said, "You're half dead." That's what he did. He was 10 years of age. So I tucked him in calmly, went across the hallway, removed him from the will. Actually, I got thinking, I can't believe how fast life goes. And we pick up speed the closer we get to home, I think, because we forget so much stuff. So I tucked Steve in. I went across the hall. I began to look for some tombstones. The funny ones, There's some out there that are hilarious. One says, "See, what was it? I should have ducked," or "He should have ducked." That was one of them. "Here lies an atheist all dressed up, no place to go." "Let your wind blow free where'er you may be. Holding it in was the death of me." That's an actual tombstone. Terrible one in Tallahassee, Florida, put there by a lady whose husband is known as a womanizer. It says, "Frank, at least I know where you're sleeping tonight." Terrible. I'm so glad that won't speak of our lives. I know what I want on my tombstone. See what you think of it. Just this: he found God's grace too amazing to keep to himself. And that's you, taking the great things you have been given. The marvelous gal in this room who has shown me grace all these 40 years, taking those great things and passing them on to people that you love and care for. You, my friends, are that. And I want to thank you today for all that you do. Thank you for living that way. You are the Miriams and the Jims and the mums and the dads to me. You are the answer to someone's prayer. Would you keep it up? Don't stop. We desperately need you to do what you do. I want to mention very quickly, I forgot I was going to mention it earlier, but I've got some books back there that I think are good resources for what you do. Laugh Like a Kid again is on just learning to laugh like a kid again. They say the average child laughs 200 times a day, and we're down to 4 laughs at our age. And we lost 196 laughs. This will help you get some of them back. Family Squeeze is about being in a sandwiched generation with my parents living with us for 5 years with Alzheimer's and dementia while our teenagers were with us. Laughing Matters is on learning to laugh when life stinks, the story of Huntington's disease and our journey. Tricks My Dog Taught Me is about dogs when you need a good laugh. There's one the U.S. Army ordered 50,000 copies of to give to military kids. So those are back there, and we have Mennonite discount prices on them in honor events. Here is my blessing on you, okay? It's an ancient one. I think you'll like it. This is my blessing on you. Just says this: so, take a new grip with your tired hands. Stand firm on your shaky legs. Mark out a straight path for your feet. Then those who follow you, though they are weak and lame, will not stumble and fall, but become strong. Thank you for all that you do. I'll be at the table for a little bit here before we take off. Thanks so much.
Well, that was fantastic. Thank you so much, Phil. And it's great to hear those inspiring words through your stories and through humor and reminding us to laugh a little bit and also to have that positive attitude. So let's give Phil another round of applause. We're going to take a 15-minute break here, so if you'd like to take some time to look around at the different vendors, and for those of you online, we're going to put a clock up here, or Jeff's going to put a clock up here for us, and we're going to start back here in about 15 minutes.